Welcome to the Progress Zone podcast, where we help you create real momentum in your mindset, business, health, and life. I'm your host, Jody Donaldson, and every week we'll explore the small, intentional steps that lead to big, lasting growth. This isn't about hype, it's about habits. So let's get started. Well, hey everyone, welcome back to the Progress Zone. Today we're talking about something that touches every area of your life, whether it's your business, your team, your relationships, your leadership style, and that is communication and trust. My guest today is Christine Townsend. Christine is a communication strategist, a keynote speaker, and author. Her most recent book is titled Trust: Why It Breaks and How We Mend It. And her career has taken her from national journalism to frontline policing to leading communications through some of the world's biggest moments. Examples: G20 protests, the London Olympics, and the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. She now works with organizations like the U.S. Department of Justice, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and the Dubai Police. Christine, welcome to the Progress Zone.
Hi, thank you for having me. What a pleasure.
Well, for listeners who are meeting you for the first time, can you just tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today?
So I am, you may have guessed, originally from the UK. I've been in the States for 10 years now. Can't believe it's gone by that quickly. Like you mentioned, I started off as a newspaper journalist when I was 16 and in tabloid journalism in the UK, which we'll probably touch on later. And at the time, my mum was a police officer, so I was kind of in that world, but it was a bit conflicting. And then I kind of worked my way through journalism, ended up going into policing as a comms person, really loved it so much that I also then became a police officer. Did all the fun things like drive cars fast and run around with dogs and whatnot, all the good things. And then I kind of just worked my way up through that and ended up finding myself at City of London Police in the UK as a comms director. But during this time as well, I was actually also a club DJ. So music
Nice.
is my passion. I DJ'd all over Europe. Great fun. So that was kind of a opposite to policing, but not really. Like, it was a really good outlet. And then I, with no plan at all, ended up moving to the States because I met a Texan.
Okay.
And was carted back to Texas willingly. And so my journey began there, where, just learning about the States, and I'd actually always wanted to be living in America. COVID hit. I couldn't work. It was really difficult to get a job before that anyway, because I didn't have a green card. So I decided to set up PRO's Toolkit, which is a resource for public communicators, simply because I missed writing. So no one knew me and didn't really know anything about me. And then the blog posts kind of picked up and I got quite a large following, and there was clearly a need for good comms training, expertise here. I was lucky enough that when I worked in government communications, we had national standards. So I kind of thought I'll bring them over and see if they fit, thinking nothing of it. And there was a real appetite for it. So from there, I managed to get myself sort of speaking gigs, and people loved the accent. So that was a bonus. And then I got my green card. I started getting work. So I was working for contracts for police departments, doing training. And also, actually, during COVID, I trained to be a cheesemonger and did virtual cheese tasting lessons. So that was interesting. Which I loved, all the cheese you can eat. And so, it kind of went from there, really. And I thought I'd write a book about frontline communication, like what it's like to be a PIO when you're in the police or fire. It's a completely different beast to corporate comms, without a doubt. And I noticed that, a lot of people were coming to me about mental health and well-being in that role. And, I had my struggles with it because of the role. So sort of put something in about that and just laid it all out there. Like, how can you actually navigate such a challenging role with so few resources and so little support? And it really struck a chord with people. So that happened. And then, the work kept coming, which was great. And so I then got some federal work. Unfortunately, that all got cut and found myself without work again. So what I seem to do when I don't work is write. And that's how the book Trust came about, because I'd kind of been reflecting on a lot of things that had been happening in my life. And one day I was like, why do I trust all these people? Why do I trust this country? Why do I trust that when I walk out the door, someone's not going to run me over in their truck? And they kind of then went from there, really. So yeah, that's kind of where I am. And now I'm in Florida, enjoying the sunshine and the sea. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that story. I love it. I love the evolution of your career and how it just kind of all, I mean, you know, sometimes we try to plan out our lives and it never works out that way, as we all know. It's somebody else's plan. And, you know, it's so cool to hear. I mean, you and I do actually share that law enforcement background. And so I was thinking, you know, and with your mom being a police officer, my dad was a police officer. But what did being on the front line kind of early on in that career teach you about the communication that you really couldn't have learned anywhere else? Because I think it is unique in policing.
Oh, yeah. Well, when you consider that in British policing as well, we have to be really good at tactical communication. We have to gain trust very, very quickly because we aren't armed. So tactical de-escalation is our very first go-to. So you have to be an amazing communicator and you have to learn to understand people. And I would never have been exposed to as many different types of people if I'd have just been in a corporate job. I was out, one of the units I worked on was with the street community. I worked with sex workers, you know, a lot of community engagement. It was challenging, but then I was also working with command team, you know, leaders, internal comms. Everyone's got different motivations, different needs. And so it was primarily to keep myself safe, to be a good communicator. But I mean, I'd had a history of journalism and I loved writing from a young age. I mean, I had a little typewriter when I was a little girl and was writing all kinds of stuff. So that part has come naturally to me. But what's frightening is that you're only a few words away from either being attacked or being hugged. And when you're with someone perhaps who might be suicidal and they're threatening to jump, you could say 2 or 3 words that just trigger it. Yep. So you become so mindful of reading people and listening to the nuances. And I think it makes you hyper vigilant and hyper aware, but I also think it's a bit of a, you know, superpower. So without that policing, I wouldn't have had that, without a doubt.
Yeah. And I think too, you know, for folks that haven't been in law enforcement or public safety, you know, you're usually encountering people on the worst day of their life, right? Or a crisis that they're in. It's never, you know, just having a cup of coffee and saying hi. I mean, sometimes that happens, but most of the time you're seeing them in a really precarious situation where, you know, that communication, that rapport building, you know, that trust, you know, I think all of that comes into play and how we can be effective in those roles, you know, to keep people safe. But let me ask you this, because I think because communication and trust, I mean, they're really so tied together in so many different areas. How would you actually define trust? Because I think most people think they know what trust is, but struggle to articulate it.
That's a really good question. To me, it's an unwritten promise that everything will be okay. You can't define. It's like, it's a knowing based on nothing at all at first, right? Babies trust us when they're born to feed them. It's an instinct. But to me, trust is that sense of they will treat me right, the system will be correct, you know. And so that's a kind of naive approach to it. That's how I would like it to be, that everything will be okay. Whether it's a person, situation, you know, you just have to trust that it will be okay. And we're taught that that is what it means. Yeah. And the hard thing for people is when it's broken, because it can be devastating.
Yeah.
Because we're taught to trust. We are taught to believe in the good things, I think.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think to your point that, you know, gut instinct, how you feel. Like you said, the trust is a feeling, right? People get, and you kind of have to go with that intuition and kind of hope and pray and whatever else that the process will work, and you trust it. But to your point, when trust breaks, I mean, it's crucial. And I think, for when trust breaks, and I know we could probably go deeper into this, but what does genuine repair look like, right? Because a lot of leaders just want to apologize and move on. But what happens when organizations try to shortcut that process? I don't think it, or individuals or organizations, I think it really messes up the future potential of mending that.
Well, I think the mistake that some leaders make, particularly in a law enforcement or uniformed profession, is they make the assumption that just because you're wearing a uniform, people will trust you. So therefore, when they say sorry, they're going to go back to the default behavior. But it has to be, because I've got the 4 threads and, clarity, consistency, care, and compassion. So when you have that, you have to be consistent. It's basically do what you say you're going to do, but again and again and again and again. And also admit your mistakes. In not say, I think I hate the word sorry. I think it's so meaningless and without any to apologize is more than just saying it.
Right.
It's a reparation. One of the interesting things I noticed when I was on duty actually was we've got in the UK, there's more about restorative justice. And quite often, if we could do street level RJ, it would be, say, for example, one really good example was when an old lady, kids were throwing stones at her windows for whatever reason. They were kids being kids and they just didn't know the distress they were causing her. I could have arrested them, taken them away, dealt with them. But in that moment, I thought, I'm just going to take them to her door and see her and understand the impact they have had on her. And she was crying. She was scared.
Aww.
And they had no concept. She was deaf as well, which made it even more heartbreaking. And they were completely oblivious of what they'd done. And that human contact where we had no idea, we're sorry, we were just having fun. Yeah. And they never did it again. And that to me is that's like showing the humanity. It's easy to stand up in a news conference and apologize when you've just got cameras in front of you. But it's only when you go out into the community that you build trust and I really want to hear you. I want you to feel seen. I think that goes a long way to building trust and in this kind of circumstance, really. And it's just doing what you say you're going to do. Show up, get the job done. I think that it is all about how do the words match the actions? Right.
And then that builds that reputation or that rapport over time that's going to continue to build and strengthen that trust, which I think is so important. And I love that story about, taking the kids to home. Yeah. I mean, that is so moving, and how, where sometimes society or in our world, are so quick to punish, but the punishment of seeing how upset and what that lady went through was enough to really impact them. Where sitting at the police station and having their parents come get, like, it's a different thing. Yeah. So kudos to you for having that ability to kind of see that and say, let's do this differently. So good for you.
Well, and also I didn't want the paperwork.
Yeah. Well, that's a bonus too, right? Like nothing is easy when you get a call for service and you got to go out. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I jest, but actually, if you give people the option to apologize and to make amends, I think that means more. So, for example, if someone had sprayed graffiti on a shop door, then you'd say to them, "What do you want to do about this?" Now, I'll paint it. That in itself is, I think, shifts people's perspective and gives them a sense of empathy, because when you consider what background they may have come from and what experiences they have, I think if you can make someone go in that direction rather than the direction that you think they're going in, and we can enable bad outcomes by sticking to a system that doesn't work. And that's when I talk about trust within systems.
Yeah.
And we trust that it works, that we arrest people, put them in prison, and they're not going to come out and do it again. Well, that doesn't work in my mind, which I appreciate is not always a popular opinion. And I understand rage at heinous crimes and
Sure.
punishment, the need for punishment. I do understand that because I've been in that position myself.
Yeah.
But I do think wherever there is not an opportunity to build trust and like micro trust at any chance, you should take it.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't work, then yeah, of course, there are some people that do not respond to that.
Yeah.
But it's all about understanding why and what will work.
It's true. It's true. And, you've worked for some big organizations and big events and things like that. Yep. What are the most common ways that you see trust break down across, whether it's an organization, a team, or in government? Like, because I'm sure you've seen a lot of different things.
When people have an expectation of a level of care and it's not given. And like I say, it's literally doing what you say you're going to do. If you have an expectation that the police are going to show up and stop you from being attacked or burgled, or they're going to investigate fully to the extent of their powers a crime, and they don't, that's when it erodes.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of trust is about managing expectations, because I think people are quick to say, yes, we'll fix it, we'll make this right. Well, you might not be able to. So never tell people that. Right. It's like, I always laugh a little bit when I leave my dogs. I'm like, I'll be back in like half an hour. And I'm like going away to a conference for 3 days. And I'm like, they never trust me. They know. Once my smell is gone from the room, they'll be like, I see. But in all seriousness, it is that kind of setting expectations to what you can realistically provide to someone. And that's in relationships as well. Yeah. That's like, we overpromise because we get carried away in the moment of the romance, or our friendships are like, ride or die. And it's like, things change. We can't always give what we promise. So I tend to be frugal on what I promise people, but not because I'm being mean, but because I'm managing expectations. It's like never overpromise, always underpromise and overdeliver, rather than the other way around. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. But I love that, because I think that is such a key piece too of, when you set the expectations, and like you said, don't create expectations that you're not going to be able to live up to, because then you're just setting it up for failure and broken trust and mistakes and all the other stuff. But
it's like flying, actually. Sorry, because I love flying.
Oh my gosh,
I've done a lot of it here.
I'm an anxious flyer.
I'm an AV geek. I would live in an airport if I could. But and I've loved it since I was a kid. I love systems. I think that's what it is. I love the process and watching people's behavior completely change in airports. Why? I find it fascinating. But, it's that whole thing of when you're standing there looking at and it says boarding in 10 minutes, and you can see the plane isn't even there. It's like, well, why are you telling me this? Because I could actually go to the bar for half an hour.
Yeah.
Chill out, and then I'd if you were honest with me and said, yeah, there's still, and you can see that it's still in flight, like, don't do that. It's a simple effect, but that's the kind of stuff. It's like, well, they're going to be late anyway. It's that kind of lowering of standards and stuff. And I mean that sounds a bit lofty, but standards are important when it comes to trust as well. It's like, what is the standard you are willing to set and that you can realistically stick to, so that you maintain that level of trust with the people that you want to communicate with or engage with.
Yeah, so true. You mentioned, and I want to go back a second, you mentioned the 4 C's. Can we go over that a little bit again? I want to understand that a little better and just hear about
that. Consistency, clarity, care, and compassion. So like we've already touched on, consistency is vital. It's that repeated action, time over time. Clarity, being completely clear about what we will provide you, what I will provide you, what my expectations are of you. Clarity and transparency is so important. And I think when it comes to communication, that even comes down to the language you use. Like using police speak, for example, that's not clarity.
No.
So therefore you're being almost disingenuous, because you're kind of not purposefully, but you're bamboozling people. Yeah. So then you can say, well, we said it here. It's in writing. Look, we said it in this document. I'm like, well, we don't know what that means. So you owe it to people to have that clarity. The other one's courage. That's all right, I got it rough. Courage, that's the important one. And that's the one that is the hardest for most people. So courage around challenging behavior, challenging people's perceptions and opinions, and sort of saying, well, have you thought this through? Why do you think that? I think I love when people say, well, why do you think that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, actually, why do I think that? Is it because I saw it on Instagram this morning? Or is it because I truly believe that? Right. And where did I get that from? And having the courage to say, you're wrong. Having the courage to say, I'm flawed as a human. I've made mistakes, but I'm learning from that. So it comes back to that, I made a mistake. I messed up here. How can you help me to help me be better at this?
Yeah.
So that courage of admitting you've done wrong, I think people fall at that.
Yeah.
Because it hurts. It's hard. It's hard to take a good look at yourself in the mirror, because I've had to do it a few times and see where you've made mistakes, and not in a kind of beating yourself up way, just in an honest, clear look at yourself. What could I do better next time? What can I take from this situation? So that's an important one, is courage. What was the other one?
Yeah.
Where I've lost where I'm gone.
Consistency, clarity, courage.
Compassion should be one in that. I mean, I should have had fire. I think for yourself,
there's
for
a lot
everyone. Yeah, well, I'm Christine.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a good job I'm not like Catherine with a K. That would struggle with that one.
That would mess it up.
Yeah, right. But I think that, seeking to give someone the benefit. See, this is the dichotomy of it, is if you mistrust someone, but you seek to understand them and give them the benefit of the doubt, because we never know where someone has come from truly. You see what's on LinkedIn, you see what's at a conference. You don't know if that person is struggling or if they're just plain nasty, right? We don't know. We don't know anything. We don't know everything about everyone, or even ourselves. Right? Yeah,
that is tough. And I did love how you emphasized the courage piece, because I think that really is, to me, I agree. I think that's probably the hardest one for most people. It's, to look at yourself, to put yourself out there in situations where you might not know all the answers, but you need to make yourself vulnerable and ask. And, I don't know. I just love how it all ties though into, the clarity and transparency, which I think we talk a lot about all the time now. Just the more transparent you can be, the better rapport you'll build. The trust will initially be there, and that gut instinct and everything will be okay. And then you can build from there by your actions and your follow through and everything else, like you said.
The self-trust part of that is that's where that courage comes in, I think, as well. It's to trust yourself to do the right thing. It's not always easy. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I've walked away from situations and thought, I was a real shit then.
Yeah.
But why?
Well, yeah. Well, and now with AI, do you think that that's changing the trust landscape at all? Like, what are most leaders missing about it, or how is that playing into some of the things that we're seeing today?
I think it's making us, I'm hoping it makes us question things more, but I was talking to someone about this actually, and there's this real kind of like, oh, but that's AI generated, so it's not right, good, real. But then when Disney made cartoons, was that not just a tool to get creativity out there? So I think what I love about it is it enables people who previously didn't have a voice, but this is a double-edged sword, because, I think about my best friend back in the UK, and her daughter is dyslexic. So I love that she could put into a microphone an idea she has and articulate it in a way that she has previously been closed off to. And it allows her to express herself.
Yeah.
So that for me is phenomenal. And everyone said, if used correctly with the right intentions, it is amazing. I love it. It's I don't know if this is the right analogy. It's like guns, right? Put them in the right hands, no problem. I haven't got a problem with the gun. I've got a problem with the person. It's like I haven't got a problem with AI. I've got a problem with the person behind it if they're using it for nefarious means.
Right.
But I will. Yeah, of course. I think, but we question Shakespeare, right? Because he was seen as like being fancy and writing really long stuff, and no one understood it. And then remember when we got our first email at work? I mean, you probably don't because you're younger than me, but and it was like that was witchcraft, and we didn't trust it. So it's like it's not going to take over the world. Yes, it's shifting things dramatically, and I'm lucky enough that I've seen so many changes along the way that I can see the patterns of what happens when emerging technology comes in, and it shifts people's perception. I was one of the national leads on social media and use of police in the UK when it very first came out. And I remember setting up the first police helicopter Twitter account. And I was so thrilled because I got to go out in the helicopter and watch Kings of Leon and Hyde Park from the helicopter as a reward. Anyway, but that was such a tough sell because people were like, we can't trust these people. What are they saying about us? We need to block them off. So I'm kind of like wait and see on it. I think we still need to have that inner trust though. If something doesn't look right, it probably isn't right. But again, that comes down to, you mentioned earlier about trusting our gut and our intuition. I think we've been so programmed to look to data and to look to fact that we have pushed that innate tool within ourselves out. And especially, and the funny thing is, you have police officers who are the most supposedly hard-headed, kind of factual, practical people, but I can guarantee you pretty much everyone has gone, I didn't like the way that felt. But they're told, oh, don't be so soft, or don't get emotional, we don't have empathy. But it's like, that's what you need. Right. So I think that's kind of interesting. That now I think people are more open to saying, it just didn't feel right. I trusted my gut on this and I was right. That's like when you get that gnawing feeling that someone's not quite on the level with you. You just can't put your finger on it. And how many people in relationships have said, I knew, I saw the red flags, but I didn't leave.
Yeah, that's so true.
So it's that self-trusting, which I think is different based on gender as well, from what I've experienced. And trust in their own ability, it's another sort of trust that people take for granted.
I mean, it truly touches every interaction we have with anybody, whether it's your coworkers, your family members, your kids, like whatever it is. I think it's something we all have to deal with, have to figure out, have to go with our gut, have to try to understand it. When it's broken, have to try to figure out how you can repair it and mend it and go from there. I want to ask you something about, because your background, I mean, in communications and stuff is so great. And you've worked with a lot of communicators. What would you say the best communicators that you've ever worked alongside all have in common?
Empathy.
I love that. Yeah.
The ability to see through other people's prisms or lenses rather than their own. Yeah. Definitely empathy, which, as I say, in policing is often squashed to survive.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
Self-protection. I am fascinated by understanding people's motivations, things. And so that's the first thing I try and do is like kind of get to the below the surface when I talk to people. And, I've been called intense at times. Like, why do you want to know that? And I'm interested in you. And I suppose partly because one of the things I would always do when I'd go into any kind of department or organization is really try and understand who I'm working with, because then I'd need to work with each one of them differently.
Right.
And I feel I learned that a little too late in my career sometimes, because there were mistakes I made, team dynamics that didn't work out, a lot of lack of trust in myself and my ability, and gave me that imposter syndrome and stuff like that. But once I worked out that you work out other people first, then, and it's not manipulative, it's important. And, same with relationships and friendships. And, I mean, it's not so much with an Uber driver, but,
Right.
It depends how far you're going, but yeah. But empathy is, they all had empathy.
Yeah,
Sure.
I love that. That's perfect. Something to, in because of the line of work that we've been in, and it's, communicating under pressure. I think every individual person will go at some point through their own version of a crisis. I think whether it's a bad review or mistake they made or team conflict, something happened. What are the non-negotiables when you have to communicate under pressure so that you don't find yourself in a bad situation? Are there any certain things that folks could do? I mean, I think empathy is huge anyways, but, is there some other thoughts?
Accountability, checks and balances. I think you always have to think ahead to what would happen if. So if we mess up today, where will we be in a year from now? And I learned that the very hard way because I was called to court to explain my communication strategy over a missing person who ended up dead.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't have one. And I don't know if you've ever seen any British legal dramas where they got the wigs and all of that. And I put it to you, you're a complete unprofessional. What that?
Oh my goodness.
And then, there are certain times when you go to see what they call the Home Affairs Select Committee, which is basically when the police do something really bad. They're called to Parliament and they have to explain themselves. And I've been sat on those. And I think accountability, record keeping, I say this everywhere I go. If it wasn't written down, it didn't happen. Because you're not only protecting, it's not about protecting you professionally or your team. When you protect, and then I say protect in terms of legally, I don't mean in terms of reputationally, a department or an agency, correct me, you are also protecting the community because that trust doesn't break. You don't end up with things like, I've seen riots come out of things go wrong that cost money. It's not just, we did a bad thing and we look silly on YouTube. We've cost lives possibly, financial, and it's that ripple effect of not getting your ducks in a row before stuff happens. Yeah. And I think having administrative kind of structure and being very robust on that is incredibly important because, I have no issue saying that I would have my own little checklists because people say, well, don't you know what you're doing? Not when I'm stressed on and had like an hour's sleep and eating a hamburger. No, I don't know what I'm doing half the time. So I have my book and every scenario that could possibly happen. And there was still some I missed out. But it's like, okay, I've done that. Yeah. Have I sent them home yet? Have I eaten? Oh, I haven't gone to the toilet yet. Right, do that. It's just, it really is as basic as that. And that is, to me, is duty of care to those around you. Because, if you all fall apart, then there's something wrong. And I think that's where I get frustrated is that people don't realise how crucial the comms function is to an organisation. I
think it's undervalued a lot in what we
massively.
Do. And, and speaking of knowing that there's a gap in the kind of respect or the understanding of the professionalism that helps keep organizations in the good light of citizens and things like that. Mm-hmm. You built this global platform for public sector communicators called the PIO Toolkit. Was it your experiences and stuff that you kept seeing that made you say, hey, there's a need for this to exist? Kind of like the checklist.
Yes, I've always been a bit of a stickler for admin and I love writing, but I noticed there was such a gap in, the difference between press officers, as we're called in the UK, and PIOs here in terms of skills, experience, support, money. It was just mind-blowing to me. And I just put it this way, when in the UK, if you are all police press officers are civilians, because it's treated as a career. You start as you say, I want to work as a press officer. in the police or fire. It's not oh, you there. You finished on patrol. Now you're going to be a PIO, or you're going to part-time PIO. And it's seen as like maybe a stepping stone to promotion. So you get a quick turnover. So there's not that consistency in the level of expertise that's being given, because you're constantly having to train the new person. And so they're not building relationships with leadership. So I wanted to just put stuff out of my thoughts on how it could, look at it this way. Have you tried this? And just people were responding to it. I had no plan, much as my whole life. I've never had a full plan. I've got a few goals, like what I wanted to do, but it just kind of went from there. And that's when I was noticing where the gaps were. And a lot of it actually wasn't necessarily skills-based. It was more confidence, or how do they talk to leadership? How do you speak truth to power? And I didn't realize, I had no concept of the fact that I was doing that all the time. And so this was also, for me, probably quite cathartic to get all of my experiences out. And then when that resonates with someone, as a writer, that's gold. I love it. I get a lot out of that.
Well, and I think it resonated with a lot of people in our field that, and I should clarify for those that aren't in it, PIO is public information officers. So I want to make sure we take out
I'm
that
breaking my own rule.
Clarity, right? We got to take out that police lingo.
I know.
Yeah.
It's like, it's all a good game.
Yeah. No, that's so true. One of the things, we talked about a lot of different things here, but I think for just generally every individual, how does all of this kind of translate just into our everyday stuff? Whether you're a business owner or you're with a client or a leader on a team, like how can we better communicate, better trust? I mean, I think we touched on a lot of different things with the empathy and whatnot. But how to translate this down for like just the everyday person with everyday stuff that we deal with?
I would say not only say what you mean, but do what you mean. Like I said, show up, do the work, admit when you're wrong, seek to work with the person or people for the ways that you can fix it, rather than assuming that you know how to fix it.
Yeah. That's powerful.
In a new relationship, after many, many mistakes, or not mistakes, lessons learned, I should say, was very upfront about how, when conflict arises, I like to communicate, which was completely different to the other person. And I said, so how do you, if we have an argument, what do we do? No, we'll never have an argument. I'm nearly 50.
Right. Yeah, good luck with that.
Right, yeah, right. We're going to Walmart, there's going to be an argument. Yeah. But it's like, well, if we have an argument, I need to be left alone. But I know you seek to fix straight away. That doesn't work for me. And I think if you understand what people's forgiveness language is, maybe, that Sanjung instead. Saying, how can we make this right? You see it a lot on like brands. They'll say, how can we make this right? Or help us make this right. And some people don't even want a refund or anything. They just want you, some people do just want to say, admit that you messed up and say you're sorry. And and that's the worst thing, is when people acknowledge that you've hurt me, acknowledge that this system doesn't work. We can all do something to change something for the better, no matter how tiny it is.
Yeah.
But I think we can't make assumptions that it's like when someone's upset me, the worst thing you can do is go, I got you a present. It's like, take it back.
Right.
Take me out to the beach or, that works. So I think it's seeing things through people's eyes, to be honest. And not making assumptions. It takes a lot to ask. It
does, right? But I think your example of how to solve a conflict is very common in pretty much every relationship, probably at some point, or work environment where it's like, you have that pressure of one person wants to solve it right now, and the other person's like, I just need a little space to process what happened and deal with it. I think that's super common and I think relatable to many people. So
yeah, well, and the worst time, I would say the worst time you can do it is when you're in the conflict.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's exactly the same as when you are trying to fix a crisis, fix all your admin in a crisis. You anticipate this is the thing, when you do work in crisis a lot, you anticipate almost too much. Right. And you don't have a quiet mind. And that's where I've struggled, is to quieten my mind. But always try and fix things, or not fix, but anticipate.
Yeah.
Before it happens, because there's nothing worse than trying to sort something out when you're like flaming raging.
Right.
Not that I ever do, because I'm like 6 then.
Oh yeah, not you. No.
Yeah.
But I have a question about the quiet mind. What's that? Is there really a thing as a quiet mind? Mine's always going.
I know, right?
It's like
sleep, I'd say, but no, dreams, nightmares, whatever. It's tough, and I actually did ketamine assisted psychotherapy for a while, and I found it to be the most beneficial thing I've ever done, because it allows you to crack open the brain and just get that stuff out there, but receive it back in a completely different way with a different perspective.
Oh wow, I love that. Yeah. Well, let me ask you kind of more personal, like what does your own growth look like right now? I know you just wrote the book. Are you working on anything else right now? Or I know you're doing some trainings.
Yeah, so I just launched my training for women and male allies. I have to be very clear that, that's important, that we all work together. I noticed that whenever I was at a conference or speaking, doing training, women would come up to me. Maybe once or twice a guy would come up to me, but pretty much always women would come up to me and say, how did you do it? I'm like, what? Get to where you are? I was like, I don't know. Honestly, I just kept going until someone said no, and then would go away and cry, and then be like, my mum would say, well, what are you going to do about it? And that's the only kind of role model in a working environment I had, was my mum, who was a single parent when she was in the police. She had it really tough. So that's always been there in my mind. And it was questions like, I don't know how to get my voice heard. They don't seem to trust me. And when you're talking about particularly male dominated environments, it's like you aren't supported as much. You do have to work twice as hard. You are seen as the bitch if you make a tough decision. You are seen as emotional. Like the number of times someone said, oh, are you on your period?
Oh, geez.
It's like that, and it's a reality in policing, in any male dominant. And I'm not saying this is everyone at all.
Sure.
At all. My stepfather was a police officer. Yeah, he has his moments, but my mum and I put him in his place. But in all seriousness, it's that kind of gnawing away at your confidence. This is where the imposter syndrome comes from. I have it. I still have it. I still don't necessarily trust myself in certain situations, and trying to work through situations back in when I was working in full-time employment. And even now, encounters that I have. And so I just thought, this is happening too often, where women aren't fulfilling their potential that they want to fulfill because the system won't allow them to.
Yeah.
So I came up with this 2-day training where it gives them those skills. It gives them the opportunity to kind of really explore where they're lacking in self-trust, because that's the fundamental part of being seen and heard, is that you trust yourself to know and do the right things, and that regardless, if you speak truth to power, you'll still be okay.
Yeah.
You're not going to get fired. You're not going to get bullied. You're not, or you have the confidence to move on from challenging situations and things like that. So there's a lot in there, but what I've made a point of doing is pulling in co-facilitators that are either expert in that industry, but also trauma-informed psychotherapist, so that we got that perspective and that we can talk freely about the things that we don't feel like we can talk about at work. because we're seen as weak if we say we're struggling or something. So I want to give women that confidence and to know that it's okay. You can be who you want to be.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you've already got trainings booked, which shows that the need is there and people need it, and they're going to respond to this, and it resonates with them, right? I mean, the fact that, you are looked up to in the communications world, and people do come up to you at conferences and want to pick your brain and learn from you. I mean, your life experience, you're able to give back now in these type of programs, and the landscape's changed, right? These organizations are different, the policing's totally different. Like there's so many different avenues that have affected, the role. And so I think giving them that education, that tools to help them have that self-trust is so important. So kudos to you. I'm really, I'm excited to see where that goes.
Me too.
And how it
really
takes off.
Yeah. I think it's sad that it's needed.
Yeah, true.
But I'm so happy that people are engaging with it, because I know how it feels, and to go home and cry, and I don't care who knows it. And then what's interesting is you say that people come up to me, it was by sheer mistake or just an accident that people started doing that. And that was because I was doing a presentation on mental health and wellbeing for public communicators. And at the conference, there was no screen to see my notes.
Oh.
So I had to just speak from the heart and kind of vaguely remember what I put. And that was it. It was more authentic and it was more open, and people really responded well to that. And I was like, I've been hiding who I am for 40 years.
Right.
Like who I truly am, Yeah. I would always agonize and be like, I can't mention that I did this, and I can't mention that I do that, and I can't mention I was a DJ, I can't mention that, all the silly little things that you think you're going to be judged on. And also struggling with culture difference as well, and assimilation. And I was just like, oh, sod it. I'm going to be me, because I've got nothing to lose, and I can't just walk away because I haven't got my notes. These people have come to see me. And then that was it. It kind of really shifted things for me. And so now I don't generally use notes unless it's something like legal or what have you. Don't want to mess that up. But it was interesting. I think
too, it sounds like you're more aligned with, like you said, who you are and what the message is and what you want to teach. And it's real. So I think that resonates and that really helps folks feel, one, they can trust you and learn from you and appreciate what your experience has allowed you to then share and prep folks, that might be in that. So I love that. Well, let me ask you this. So I want to do a little rapid fire wrap up before we wrap up type thing. I've never tried this before, but I want to try it because I saw it on something and I thought this is kind of cool. So short answers, first instinct, no lot of thought. And it's only like 5 questions. So you ready?
Go. Yeah, go.
All right. One word for a truly great communicator.
Empathy.
Okay. Biggest mistake leaders make when trust breaks down.
Assumption.
A book that changed how you think, not including your own.
Oh, the Snoopy books. I love Snoopy. And
that's fair.
The lessons you learn from Snoopy are quite profound.
Yeah, I love that. Not expected, but I love that. What do most people get wrong about trust?
That it's automatic, that it's a given.
And the best advice you've ever received?
Just get on with it.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, you knocked it out of the park. That was it. That wasn't that hard. How
do you know I like baseball?
Yeah. Well, I so appreciate your time today, Christine, and the conversation we have. I think, I really love seeing what you're doing. Where can people find you and get their hands on the books or trainings that you have? We'll put all that in the show notes and everything so folks could connect with you, but where can they find you?
Yeah. So instead of writing a letter to the UK, the British one, the British police officer, I wouldn't advise that. You can say ChristineTownsend.com.
Oh, no. Simple enough. That has your trainings on there as well as your books?
Get everything, books, trainings, musings, maybe, just links to all the stuff I get up to and where I'm going to be. So, yeah, it's all there.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you again. Thank you for what you're doing in the communications world and in the public safety space, and creating these trainings and continuing the work you're doing. I'm a big fan. I'm rooting for you from afar, and I really hope to continue to see it progress and come fruitful for you. So kudos.
I appreciate it. No, you've always been that person who lights up a room, and I've always loved seeing you in person and seeing how you do as well. So I've really enjoyed this. So I want to thank you. You've lifted my day, that's for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Christine. Well, and for all you listeners, if this one hit home for you, just please share it with somebody who really needs to hear it, and just keep showing up, keep doing the work, and keep making progress. And I'll see you next time inside the Progress Zone. Thanks for joining me in the Progress Zone. If today's episode gave you a spark, share it with a friend, subscribe, or leave a quick review. And remember, progress isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up. I'm Jody Donaldson, and I'll catch you next time inside the Progress Zone.